What was something that happened to you as a child, that you didn't realize was scary/creepy/dangerous until you got older? My family's station wagon blew a flat in the middle of the night on I-95, as we exited the city of Miami. I was 5 years old and riding along with my mom, grandparent, sibling and dad, who was driving when the tire blew. It was the 80s. When the tire blew, everyone freaked out a bit. For some reason, my dad kept driving on the flat, even though we were traveling at a high speed. Eventually the tire wore down or fell off and we were riding on the rim, sparking down the freeway in the middle of the night. I remember the energy in the car turned to fear, but something was off. I was told when I was older, that my dad saw a man in the center median, throw a strip of nails attached to something into the middle of the highway, which my dad could not avoid. Turns out, people were using this method to rob and carjack highway drivers in the middle of the night. My dad somehow was aware of what was happening and responded accordingly by not stopping to change the tire for several miles. Luckily we had a full-size spare. We changed the tire several miles down the road and made it home safely.
Nanny was supposed to pick me up for an after-school thing I was doing. She was a bit late, so I decided to walk home. Thing is, the school was 6 miles from my house and I had to cross 2 overpasses to get there, which I did while lugging my stuffed backpack. I made it about 5 miles before getting too tired and resting next to the sidewalk near the local mall. Then this guy on a motorcycle asks if I wanted a ride. I said yes, because freak walking in the surprisingly creepy home stretch to my house, and hopped on his bike. We ended up talking a bit and I found out he was an armored truck driver named Ray. He dropped me off at my house and that was the last I saw of him. My parents didn't find out until a few years later when he showed up at the house, asking for some cash to buy his kid a Christmas present, mentioning how he'd helped me out that time. I had a kindergarten teacher who always gave me extra attention. He would bring me little gifts, hold my hand, walk me to the bathroom. After a few weeks my mom started asking me questions, and I told her how he would take me into the coat closet for special talks and would give me lots of hugs. My mom took me over to where my dad was working and had me tell him, and then we all drove up to the school and my dad beat the crap out of him. The next day I was put in a different classroom and I didn't see him at school anymore. When I was in 6th grade I walked into a math class for the first time at the start of the year and he was the teacher. It all just kind of clicked in my brain when I saw him, what he had done and might have tried to do and why my dad beat him up. Needless to say, I went to the principal and made them call my dad, and when they told us that, since nothing was ever done legally and all that, he would keep teaching and he was the only math teacher, my dad put me in a different school.
I grew up in Detroit and because violence was the norm I didn't realize how terrible some of the stuff I witnessed was. I even thought, cool, a good story to tell the kids at school. One particular story is of when my neighbors across the street, a couple and the sister of the couple, got into a very violent fight. There was so much blood, the husband or boyfriend was beating his lady and kicking her all over her porch. Then when her sister came home midway, she's like, hell no, and gets a 2x4 from the alley and starts beating the crap out of the guy. He leaves and gets something else and starts beating her, and the girlfriend is just trying to break it up but she's getting hit and they're all really beaten up. I lived with my grandparents, these sweet old classic Mexican types from the country, and we just all go sit on the porch and watch what the crazy white trash neighbors are doing, and it never occurred to me to call 911 or do anything. When the cops came I remember thinking that calling them was a good idea.
When I was younger we moved into a house in the woods. It wasn't completely finished yet, no screens on the windows, unpaved driveway, just dirt and rocks, etc. We also had a huge wolf spider infestation. Apparently the house was built on the headquarters of all wolf spiders in the US. Wolf spiders can vary somewhat in appearance. Some are gray and very hairy, some are brown and more smooth. Freaked out when I saw one at first, but then I thought, they look really cool, so as long as they don't bite me, it's okay. Anyways, eventually I just got used to them. Sometimes I'd see a baby wolf spider and just sort of play with it, otherwise just let it be around while I do whatever I did as a child. Either way, they were everywhere. It wasn't until much later that I saw what young wolf spiders really looked like, and the things I had been playing around with the whole time were brown recluses.
When I was 10 I was given some money to go to gas station to get some soda and candy for me and my mom. When I was walking to the store, a Mexican in an old car came driving real slow like. He asked me if I wanted a ride. I said yes. He starts asking me about school and stuff starts getting weird. It smells awful in his car. Later on I realized it was black velvet, so we are at a stoplight across from the gas station. I bolt. I run to the gas station and started jumping on the tube to make the bell go off. The old man who owns it came out and threatened to beat my A until he realized the Mexican was staring at me from his car. Well, he yells some choice expletives at the Mexican and tell me to go inside. Old man calls my mom and she told me to walk home and don't drop our sodas. I could have been kidnapped if not for the surly old racist.
This might be a little long. When I was still a toddler, around 3 or so, my mom and dad took my sister, 10 years old, and I on a trip to Toronto. We were towing a small trailer and I guess it got a flat. For some reason my parents unhooked the trailer, spread a blanket and left my sister and I to watch it while they drove to a repair shop. Note, we were on the 401 highway, which is a divided, 70 miles per hour, at the time, speed limit 4-lane freeway. There couldn't have been a repair shop for 60 or more miles. They took off for what seemed like hours. Could have been, I was 3. So we are sitting there and a station wagon pulls to the shoulder and comes to a stop. By the time I noticed, a middle-aged man had scooted to the passenger side of his car, opened the door and was whacking it for all it's worth. I just stared at him because I was curious and my sister said, "Don't look and he'll go away." I thought she said, "Don't look or he'll go away." So I pretended to cover my eyes and stared through my fingers, because I thought she wanted him to stay. In any case, he finally finished up and left but came back after a fair while. He must have taken the next off-ramp and doubled back because he showed back up again doing the same thing. By then, I had figured out my sister was afraid, so I tried not to look as much. Edit, I should have mentioned that I am female. He must have left, and after a long time my parents came back for us. That part is all hazy. I just remembered the weird man. At no point was I frightened because of my trust in my sister. When we got home and we went out to play, I told all her friends that I saw a man stretching his dink, which they found hilarious. I only realized many years later how much danger we were in and how irresponsible my parents were. All I can think now is my poor sister.
A man pointed a gun at me when I was 6. I was in the backyard playing when 2 men walked by. I don't remember any details of their appearances, just silhouettes. They stopped and one of them aimed a pistol at me. I didn't feel any fear, but I almost nonchalantly stepped behind the nearest bush, like I knew what a gun was from TV, but didn't really grasp the idea of death as something that could actually happen to me. One of them said, "Oh, never mind," or something in a similar tone, and they walked away.
I was outside in the driveway while my parents were working in the yard out back. All of a sudden, a car drives by really slow and stops. This guy gets out and starts walking towards me, saying, "Hi, where are you parents?" and that he has something for me. I got up and ran to the backyard, and my father sees me running and confronts the guy. I remember him saying he was a child toy book creator and wanted to show me things. It still creeps me out to this day. What a weird guy that was.
Not creepy, but a near-death experience caused by stupidity. When I was 7 or 8, me and a couple of buddies ran wild in the local woods every day. Our parents just let us out of the house in the morning and expected us back for lunch and dinner. Apart from that, we weren't supervised at all. We had our camps and our favorite climbing trees, wasps' nests that we kicked, a box of found porno mags and all the other things that you used to find in the woods in the 1970s. One day Joe had stolen a box of matches from home, so we decided to make a bonfire. A development company years before had tried to make a subdivision in the woods but had run out of money after a few roads were built, so there were no houses but there was a big expanse of concrete to build it on. We were dumb, but not dumb enough to burn down a forest. We piled up kindling and sticks and made a good old fire that we took turns in running across, trying to light the soles of our shoes. Then we added logs until we had a pretty sizable blaze going. This started to get boring, so we scouted around the woods for other stuff to burn. Someone threw an old paint can onto the fire and after a few minutes the lid burst off with a satisfying pop. Wanting to repeat that fun experience, we looked around some more, and eventually someone found a mostly empty gasoline can. It was the old metal kind with a hefty lid. We threw it in the middle of the fire and stood around waiting for the lid to pop off like with the paint can. It sat there for a long time, and then just as we were getting bored and about to go do something else, it blew a flaming smoke ring. This was amazing. We gathered closer to see what else it would do, and the next thing there was a flash of light and a huge boom, and everything went silent and black. We had all been blown flat on our backs and were just coming round, trying to work out what had happened, when we heard adults shouting and the sound of running feet coming from the edge of the woods. Our ears were ringing, our faces were scorched, our hair and eyebrows were singed like in a Charlie Chaplin movie, but we couldn't possibly allow ourselves to get in trouble, so we picked ourselves up and limped away and hid in the woods, watching while the grown-ups cleared up our disaster area.
It's been mentioned in this thread, but a man tried to kidnap me while my mom was at the teller's window making a deposit at the bank, not 20 feet away from me. I was sitting in the little lobby waiting area in this little bank in my small hometown, and a random dude just comes up and asks if I want to go get ice cream. I just freeze up and keep looking at the book I'm reading. I was maybe 4. He's persistent and I just keep shaking my head no. A banker at a desk sees what's going on and says, "Hey dude, I'll go get ice cream with you," and the dude just freaks off. I still never saw his face because I didn't look up from my book. This was probably 1991, so I don't think it was taken as seriously as it should have been. I never told my mom because I thought I'd get in trouble. I should have though. I shudder to think of what that dude could have done to other little girls. Who knows?